Virgin Galactic continues to be in kind of a waiting period until 2026 when the company is going to launch the Delta spacecraft, which should be where the company gets to ultimately profitability. Probably not by the end of 2026, but the company is going to have a rapid financial improvement when Delta launches if they can get there. And that is the big question that investors are asking about Virgin Galactic is, can they survive until 2026 when Delta will actually launch? And the thing that I'm watching, the reason that I'm covering this today is there are some specific milestones that the company needs to hit to make sure that they're on that timeline. Not only is it important for these milestones to actually be reached so that they can launch Delta, but also because if there are any delays of any significant amount, even a 3 or 6 month delay, it may mean that Virgin Galactic doesn't have enough cash on the balance sheet to survive to actually launch Delta. So there's a huge tightrope that this company is walking. It has to walk that tightrope because the stock price is so low that it just doesn't make a lot of sense for them to issue shares at this point to try to fund operations further. That window is effectively passed. If they wanted to do that, they should have done it at $8, $9, $10 per share. But it's really hard to do that when shares are trading a little over $1 as I'm recording. But there was a big step in the right direction announced on Monday. So that's what I want to cover today and kind of put it in context as to what management needs to show over the next 12 to 18 months or so in anticipation of the flights that we're expecting next year for Delta. My name is Travis Hoium. Thanks for watching Asymmetric Investing. Please subscribe here on YouTube for all my content. And thanks to this video's sponsor, The Motley Fool. If you go to fool.com/ASYM, they'll give you their top 10 stocks to buy right now. So let's get right to what was announced. You can see here that Virgin Galactic said they are beginning operations, their Delta spacecraft ground testing facility, also known as their Iron Bird test facility. This is a new systems integration facility in Southern California, and they will do their ground tests to test initial subsystems and will add components over the course of the year to increase scope and effectiveness. What they're basically doing is they're building a large chunk of the Delta spacecraft, and then they're going to test things like avionics, feather actuation, pneumatics, and hydraulics. And this Iron Bird allows them to validate that functionality of components early in the development process. Now, this development process is a little bit unique because they're not changing a lot of things from VSS Unity. The spacecraft is just a few inches longer than VSS Unity, but it uses a lot of the same components. They know where a lot of the stresses are in the spacecraft. So this is what Mike Moses is talking about here. They can shave off years of the development timeline that they saw with VSS Unity because of those design factors. What they need to do is just verify what they've designed. So you go in with basically the outline, the shape of what the spacecraft is going to look like is very similar than VSS Unity, but the internals are going to be a little bit different and a little bit more efficient because Unity was built by hand and built over time. So you go on a flight with Unity, you say, oh, there's a little bit more stress in this point than I anticipated. I'm going to add a little bit of reinforcement. Well, now you can design that in when you move to something like Delta. That's exactly what they're verifying, is that the design is performing the way that they anticipated. That's exactly what they're showing here, where they say a static test article like the Iron Bird will stress major structural components to verify structural integrity data, determine the design and ultimate limit loads of the structure, which will both optimize the flight test program and support overall time objectives. They also said that they are on track for a launch of commercial operations in 2026. And the final assembly will happen in their Phoenix, Arizona facility. That facility should be nearing the end of construction, and eventually they'll be able to launch 8 space missions per month per Delta spacecraft. So this is really the challenge for Virgin Galactic, is what they're trying to do is get to the point where the New Mexico facility, which you see on the right, can hold 4 to 5 Delta class spacecraft and 2 motherships. What they are building right now, what they have the financial wherewithal to build right now, is 2 Delta spacecraft and the 1 mothership that already exists. The second mothership is kind of in limbo now, and there's a lawsuit with Boeing, so we'll see where that goes. But the ultimate goal is to get to 300 to 400 flights per year, so basically 1 per day, once all of these spacecraft are up and running. At that point, you could even see them expanding into more facilities around the world. What you're going to see them doing right now is testing a lot of the internal components, to make sure that those work as planned. So all of these hidden components that you see right here on the internals of the spacecraft, that's exactly what they're going to be testing with the Iron Bird. This is the Arizona facility around Phoenix, and they're going to be able to be building 3 different spacecraft and 1 mothership at the same time. Thanks to our friends at The Motley Fool for sponsoring this video. Visit fool.com/ASYM for the top 10 stocks to buy right now. So it may seem a little bit odd that shares of Virgin Galactic were up almost 10% on Monday after this relatively minor announcement. But what I think we're seeing is that investors are saying, hey, we at least need to see these milestones are being hit. And I was not anticipating some of this testing being done quite this early. So you want to see a lot of this static testing done in 2024 and then see flight tests start. I believe it's going to be probably spring of next year. That would give them about a year to do the flight tests before you get to commercial operations, hopefully in summer, maybe early third quarter of 2026. I think that would be the optimistic view. But we'll see if they update us more on some of the timelines and the specific numbers that they're going to be putting out. They have been giving a little bit more information about what exactly needs to be done, what those milestones are. And so I'm expecting management to really check this off each quarter, because if they can do that, if you go from a point where, hey, this is 2 years away and it's going to be a really long process, investors just don't have a lot of patience for that in the current market environment. That's why Virgin Galactic's valuation is less than the cash that's currently on the balance sheet. But if we get to the point where some of these milestones have been hit, we start to have confidence they're actually going to have 2 deltas that are going to be able to be operational once commercial operations start, then you start to go, okay, what is revenue going to look like? What are margins going to look like? Are we going to be profitable? Now you can start evaluating the company on potential ongoing operations, and maybe that stock price starts to creep up. If the stock price starts to creep up, then management has more opportunity to raise capital to build that 3rd and 4th and 5th Delta spacecraft, build another mothership. But they have to get to that point. Investors have to know that they're going to get over this basically 2-year valley where they're just going to be burning cash and there's going to be nothing coming into the coffers. That's really the challenge that Virgin Galactic finds its way in. But this is why I have called this a 0x or 100x stock. I mean, this is the kind of company that's either not going to make it, or if they do make it and they're doing 300 or 400 flights per year, this is going to be an incredibly profitable company, because people are willing to pay and have paid over $1 million to be on this spacecraft and experience just a few minutes of weightlessness. This is a kind of once in a lifetime experience that a commercial company, a public company, can now start to offer. But they're not quite at that point yet where you can start thinking about that until they hit some of these milestones. So that's why, as we have hit milestone after milestone this year and next year, expect the stock to react pretty positively. I don't know if the reaction will stick. That will ultimately be the question, but that is going to be the upside, is that they hit all these milestones over the next couple of years. And by the time we get to commercial operations, now you're really thinking about, what does this company look like long-term? How is it positioned? What is the growth potential? And I think that's a very different conversation than the one that we're having right now about Virgin Galactic, but got to see these milestones hit. So this is one that I definitely think is a positive for the company, and looking to hear more on the first quarter 2024 conference call. They also have a flight coming up in June, so that will be another data point. But then a lot of those operations, particularly in New Mexico, will go dark for a couple of years. So a very strange point in time for Virgin Galactic, but I think this is a step in the right direction, even though it was maybe seen as kind of a minor announcement for a lot of investors. A lot to prove, but if we hit these milestones over the next few years, I think there's a lot of potential for the company. But what do you think about Virgin Galactic? Leave your comments in the comment section below. Don't forget to subscribe to Asymmetric Investing. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you here next time.